And welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. Always a pleasure to welcome Alexandria Nicholas Kuhn from the Massillon Museum. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you never look bored.
I've never been bored in my life, or at least not since working at the Massillon Museum.
I would think not. How long have you been there?
19 years.
Is that right?
Yes.
My goodness, I didn't realize that long. Well, you've seen some change, haven't you?
We have.
Talk to me a little bit about what was it like 19 years ago? I know, different location.
Oh, my goodness. So 19 years ago, I'd started at the museum as an intern, and the collections were just as rich and diverse and wonderful, but we had a smaller staff, and we had 18,000 less square feet. And
That's a factor.
It sure is. And we didn't have as much of a variety of programming, and our resources were less than they are now. And it was still a magical, wonderful place full of possibility and a staple organization within the community, and definitely an anchor and a catalyst for change and great things in downtown. But the possibility was always there, and the board had envisioned, not too long after having moved into its current location, that there might be a day it would outgrow that space. 1996, they dedicated their arrival and renovation of that in that new building, since having moved from the library. So they had anticipated that there might come a day when more space would be needed. And it arrived, and we're thriving in our new space and learning new and wonderful things about all the possibilities that the space affords us.
Other towns, well, a town over, Canton, has the Historical Museum and the Art Museum, and you have all in one. It's how did that come about, that you really do have both all in one, MassMu?
We do. We are an art and history museum, and we're unique in that way, and that allows us to engage with so many different people and tackle so many different subject matters, which makes life interesting and opens up the door for us to collaborate with pretty much anyone and any organization. And we have partnered very extensively with a lot of other organizations throughout Stark County and Northeast Ohio and the country, really. So it really expands what we can offer too, in terms of curriculum supplements for teachers in this community, and it broadens the extent to which we can attract different interests and diverse populations and demographics. So I think that's a very exciting challenge to have, balancing art and history. And we have recently revised our mission statement to the Massillon Museum as a cultural hub where art and history come together. And I think it perfectly reflects who we are.
It really does. I think anyone growing up in Massillon remembers, just as a kid, going to the Massillon Museum, and what do we all remember? The skeleton.
Right.
Is Oscar?
Oscar.
Is it the same guy that was there all those years ago?
Oscar has been with the museum almost as long as the museum has been an entity itself. The museum was founded in 1933. Oscar came to the museum in 1934.
My goodness. My goodness. Well, he used to just hang free. Now you've got him encased, right?
He's in a case. He's in proper housing. And we've done a little more research. We still don't know much about Oscar himself, but we know a little more about Dr. Rhodes, who donated him Oscar had been an educational specimen for Dr. Rhodes and remains so today. So he is a permanent fixture at the museum.
So it had to be that back in the 1930s, a gentleman who knew his days here on Earth were going to end, and he wanted his bones to be able to be studied. He was thinking that far ahead.
No, I'm sorry. So Dr. Rhodes had acquired this medical specimen in some fashion.
Okay.
Not entirely sure how.
We don't know how.
No, but he'd been part of he'd been in his office, held for years and years, decades. So how he came to acquire Oscar is a little fuzzy, but we think the story is that he donated his body to science, this individual.
Yes, this individual thought of that way back, like in the who knows how long.
Right. Yeah. Probably in the 19th century, sometime in the late 1800s.
Late 1800s, and then Dr. Rhodes had him in his office and then donated him to the Massillon Museum. And here we are in the 21st century, and kids can still learn from this man.
They can. And we like to still do a little more to investigate who Oscar may have been and pay, our proper respects to
Yes.
to what that might mean and do, learn a little bit more about how old he may have been and study him in greater depth. But he has been a fixture at the Massillon Museum and in the memories of, as you noted, Susie, everyone who's grown up in Massillon.
Absolutely. Well, you have a very cool permanent collection. Let's start there. Tell me some of the things that we'll find when we go that you can always see.
Sure. The Immel Circus is it's a community favorite, and it's something that amazes and impresses first-time visitors. It's an incredible hand-carved miniature circus of over 2,000 pieces and hand-carved by a dentist in town, Dr. Immel, from his dentist tools over a period of 50 years. And actually, the dedication of the museum we have coming up will include Dr. Immel's daughter, Bobby Malbach, will be there
Oh, how great.
in proximity to the circus to help people fall in love with it again and answer any questions people might have. So we're very fortunate to have such a great supporter in Bobby and for her to continue, to tell that story of her father.
Oh, yeah.
So that remains on display always. We are returning the Jewel automobile 1907-08 car
Wow.
back to its new permanent home within our second floor galleries. And it will have additional context photographs and additional information to enliven the history that surrounds and interprets that. And our fine and decorative arts galleries will include our beautiful Tiffany Fevriel glass goblet set, which is this beautiful gold iridescent color. And we have some really fine decorative arts examples in our collections. We also have some really fine paintings and sculptures, which will show a beautiful sandstone sculpture by Ohio artist Popeye Reed. We'll be showing a beautiful landscape painting called Medieval Forest by Ralph Albert Blakelock. He's one of the probably most accomplished or maybe well-known American landscape artists of the 19th century. So we're fortunate to have a large, beautiful landscape that he painted, which will return on view. And our photography gallery will feature some incredibly impressive recent acquisitions, photographs by Ansel Adams.
Wow.
Yes, some original prints, some of the last he made before he passed away, actually, in the early 80s. And they were recently gifted to us by Susan Gessner. We'll be showing some of those paired with other kind of superstars from our permanent collection. And that's just a little taste of what people can expect. But the galleries will be organized thematically so that people can return and see new things.
New things every
time they
single
visit.
time. Absolutely. Well, we're getting excited about this dedication. Let's talk about what's happening pretty soon here, coming up
Yes.
on the 14th.
Oh, my goodness, yes. If only there were 30 hours in a day.
Yes,
and 6
surprise,
weeks in a
Alex.
month.
You got
I know.
5 days until.
I know. But we're in good shape. But we have been working around the clock to prepare these galleries. And I think people who have seen the permanent collection galleries before and will, see them transformed in the way that we've re-envisioned them will be impressed and very pleased and inspired by all the new artifacts and artwork they can accommodate since the galleries have expanded. And I think those who are visiting for the first time will be impressed by the depth of our collection. So it will be a real treat to see how people respond to having, a lot of those treasures they've known and loved and seeing new things together for the first time. We're all very excited about that. But we have a lot of work to do yet in these next few days.
It sounds like people planning to come now to the Massillon Museum really need to be careful that they wear some walking shoes.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be covering some territory, yes?
Actually, it's funny that you say that because taking people through on tours in the past few years since we've expanded the space provides, for someone like me and for most of our staff who have been with the museum for a decade or more, it does take twice as long to navigate the space. And it's wonderful.
Yes.
Something we had only dreamed of many years ago. And now it's here. All the hard work of our team and our supporters, our funders, everyone who's believed in us, it's really paid off. And now we've created this entity that the community can enjoy for generations.
Still free?
Still free.
How do you do that?
Well, we are also unique not only in our dual art and history mission, but in that we're the only museum in the entire state funded by a city property tax levy. So every 5 years, we ask literally the citizens of Massillon to support its museum and to retain this opportunity that it provides for the community. And they've pledged their support. We're so grateful. This community is so special. Massillon is an amazing place in that it has a museum of this caliber, and that there was vision 80 plus years ago to establish it, and that for the past 30 plus years it's been supported directly, in large part directly by the citizens.
Pretty awesome.
It's totally awesome.
Massillon's also very special. It's a football town. It's a rare football town. Talk to me about how the museum connects with that pulse of the city.
Sure. Well, football is history. It's we treat it as part of the history of the town, past and present. And we have an extensive archives, a large portion of which was gifted to us by the Massillon Tiger Football Booster Club, knowing that we were opening this museum, which we've called the Paul Brown Museum. And it resides within the Massillon Museum. So its identity is not different from ours, but it is a space we've reserved within the museum exclusively for telling the story of Massillon football, also Paul Brown's story, and a lot of tangential topics related to football or Paul Brown as an individual.
Walk me through it. When you enter, how do you get specifically to the Paul Brown Museum within the Massillon Museum?
Sure, that's a great question. So you enter, so the museum is fully accessible. It is a downtown. We are located on the corner of Lincoln Way East and First Street East. So parking is perimeter parking and in any of the adjacent free city lots, but access to the museum and within is completely accessible. So that is something important to note. And once you enter into the front doors, you'll be welcomed by a volunteer receptionist, and our volunteers are all fabulous. You can take the elevator or the stairs up to the second floor, make a right, and then a right again. And you'll see the Paul Brown Museum. It occupies the entirety of the second floor of the new building.
The new part. And what will we find there?
Right now, there are 2 exhibits. There will always be 2 exhibitions concurrently running in that space, and they rotate every 6 months. So right now, there's an exhibit about Paul Brown's pro team, so the Browns and the Bengals, and how those formed. And another great exhibit about the history of the stadiums in Massillon and the football fields, and where these individuals played from the early professional and semi-pro days and the late 1800s to present day. So it's a really great history of the gridiron. And then we have a permanent fixture that just opened Super Bowl weekend. It's a really beautiful timeline that takes one through Paul Brown's life and career, and also paralleled is that of his work with the Browns and the Bengals, and then the Massillon Tigers.
Yes.
History.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's a really, really cool effort. It was designed by Ines Majori, and it was a great collaboration with them. And it's a permanent fixture, and it's really beautiful. We're really proud of it.
Awesome. And what a down-to-earth guy he must have been, because whenever he would come back to town, I had an elderly aunt who lived at the Canton Christian Home who had been a teacher at Massillon High School forever, and he would always stop by the Canton Christian Home to visit her. And, well, the fellas, legendary Paul Brown is walking the halls,
Right.
and, just so cool that he would just be that down to earth and know his roots and remember his roots.
Absolutely. And we just received a message from his son that we're going to play for those in attendance at the dedication that speaks to how much Massillon was always a part of his
Oh, yeah.
heart. And then his choice for his final resting place as well.
Yes, very cool. We're visiting with Alexandra Nicholas Kuhn from the Massillon Museum. I want to ask you about Play Like a Girl after these words. We're listening to Our Community. Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Alexandra Nicholas Kuhn. And we're talking about the Massillon Museum big dedication happening this Saturday, March 14th, 11 to 2, open house. And then at noon, you'll be able to see the ribbon cutting and the remarks and visit all the new galleries. Before we move on from the Paul Brown Museum part of the Massillon Museum, I love this title, Play Like a Girl. You've got something for the ladies in the football history of
yeah.
Paul Brown's part. Tell me about that.
Well, our curator of football history, Bailey Yoder, she does a phenomenal job and is so enthusiastic about her role in football history. And she's really working to try to engage, as I mentioned earlier, diverse audiences in participating in the museum. Mm-hmm. And so that exhibit is one she's curating, and it will address the role that women's athletics played in Massillon, throughout the years.
Yay.
And highlight some of its superstars. It's going to be really fun.
And a little bit about Title IX in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay.
Yep, it'll take us through to Title IX. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. All righty. Well, in addition to all this, let's talk about Studio M Gallery, some of the things that you've got going on there,
Sure.
because there's some things right now that we don't want to miss before they leave.
Right.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, Studio M is a contemporary gallery space. It's one of the new spaces we created with the expansion. And every 7 weeks, there's a new exhibition, and it's a juried process. So it features artists from all over the country and all over Ohio. And so currently we have an artist, a photographer and printmaker from Cleveland, Deborah Pinter, who has a showcase of some of her newest works that blend all different media, and they're really, really beautiful. And you can see one example right there.
Yes.
And she incorporates some just really beautiful elements sourced from nature in her works. And you can see that through March 22nd. And then next, we feature a student from the Cleveland area, Alana Cartwright, who is a photographer, and her exhibition addresses individuals who have survived encounters with sexual violence and have emerged, have emerged from this terrible traumatic experience, and they're portrayed, visually for the strength that they had to overcome that. So she does a really beautiful job.
I love that name as well, Clothed in Resilience.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all about.
Sounds powerful.
It is very powerful, and she has she has a very mature vision, I think, for a student, and the exhibition is really beautiful and at the same time really provocative, not visually provocative, but in
Makes
that
you think.
It does make you think about what so many, probably among us, have perhaps experienced that are too ashamed perhaps to talk about, and calls, and there's some perhaps calls to action people might get a sense of from seeing the exhibit. So it's a really, perfect example of an artistic vehicle used as a platform for creating awareness about an issue that is ever present, unfortunately.
Another gallery, and I swear Fred F. Silk must have been one of the most generous people in the world, because I don't know anybody who doesn't have a Silk auditorium or a Silk something.
You're right.
You have a Fred F. Silk community room gallery. Tell me about that. What will we find?
We do. So the Fred F. Silk Community Room, and you're right, the Fred F. Silk Foundation has been very generous to the museum. They helped establish this room as a space where people could gather. It's available for rent, so oftentimes there are baby showers, business meetings, and a lot of other types of convening take place there. But when we created it used to be home to Studio M. When we acquired the additional properties and established a new home for Studio M, we redefined the mission of that space to be one that celebrates community collaboration. So all of the exhibits in that space are facilitated by the Massillon Museum in collaboration with another organization or entities. So Relay for Life, Walsh University, the links incorporated, and, numerous others. So the products of our collaborations are reflected in the exhibits there, and we're really proud of that space.
Nice. And not to forget the Altman Health Foundation Gallery. What's there?
Yes, that's the exhibit gallery on our main level. And right now is our Celebration in Art exhibition. You can see that through the end of this week through March 15th. And that is our annual student exhibition, K through 12, Western Stark County. We have 200 plus works of art by talented young folks in our community represented. It's one of the most beautiful shows we've hosted. And we have 24 schools participating. That's the highest number of schools ever to participate in that show. So the gallery is packed with color and budding young talent, and we're really proud of that exhibit every year. And next, you can see an amazing exhibition. It's a traveling show of cut paper and cut and pierced metal and manipulated materials, mostly paper. That's sponsored by Greif Paper Mill and Massillon, and it will be on view through the end of August. So there are over 60 artists who are represented in this exhibition with work that will really surprise and amaze people because most of it manipulates this media in ways they might never have thought possible.
You have a lot of events, but we want to make sure we talk about one especially called the Big Read. What is it and what's going on?
So the National Endowment for the Arts has helped fund, with the assistance of Arts Midwest, the Massillon Museum's 13th consecutive year hosting the Big Read. So it is a literacy program, a national literacy program, and they grant only about 75 institutions annually funding to develop programming around a selected book and also to distribute free copies of the book.
So everybody in how far outskirts? All of Massillon can read this for free, or Stark County, or who all has access to the book?
Anyone. Well, so we work in partnership with Massillon Public Library every year. So they always secure extra copies that can be borrowed, and they also secure access to digital copies to make it more accessible.
Perfect.
Yes. And so we work with them to try to garner, additional ways that you can take part. But we're giving away about 1,200 copies. And
to whom?
To anyone who, while supplies last, stops by the museum to pick up his or her copy, or the library, or any other number of sites that are partnering with us to distribute. So we have about 20 different partner sites that might carry, a dozen to 2 dozen each to distribute to their patrons.
And this year's book is?
Can't We Talk About Something More Pleasant? I know.
What a great title.
It is. It's a graphic novel and a memoir by acclaimed, award-winning New Yorker magazine cartoonist Roz Chast about her parents' final years and the challenge it is seeing parents age and challenging decisions that must be made with regard to everything that entails, living, their living situations, their health, their interfacing with family, and so forth. So it uses the graphic novel format as a way to perhaps make what is absolutely a challenging topic maybe a little more accessible. And there's levity in there, there's humor injected, but it's something that every human being, most every human being will have to address in some fashion. So, we're trying to strip what is taboo about the topic away. We have over 40 programs that are designed to address the themes of the book through exhibitions and book discussions and theatrical interpretations, and the list goes on and on and on. And April 4th from 3 to 5, we launch it. Individuals, people can stop by the museum. 1 copy per household, please. These are very hefty books, too. These are...
So it's not a comic book graphic novel.
No.
It's a thick graphic novel.
It is.
But in more of a comic book style.
Yes,
to make it more fun to read.
Right, because she is a cartoonist, so that's the medium where she can best...
Express
herself, exactly.
Well, this will be great. Okay, 3 to 5, what's taking place at the kickoff?
So the kickoff Yes, I'm sorry.
On April 4th.
Yes, so you can pick up your free copy of the book. We'll have art activities. We'll have light refreshments. That's when we open Alana Cartwright's exhibit, our Cut Up, Cut Out exhibit in the Altman Health Foundation Gallery. We open a Creating Graphic Narratives exhibit of graphic work and comic book art in our Fred F. Silk Community Gallery. So you can see all the amazing
Wow.
artwork and be inspired. And then we also have a sneak preview of another Studio M exhibit because it deals with a lot of the topics in Roz's book. Yeah, it's also an opportunity to see all the new things taking place. And a lot of our partners will be represented with informational tables. So the Massillon Public Library will be there, for example.
Will Roz Chast be coming to... Really?
Yes, she is.
When?
We're so excited. Thursday, April 30th.
Okay.
7 p.m. in Gessner Hall at the Massillon Museum. And it is free to attend, but you must register on Eventbrite because space is limited. So I would encourage anyone who's interested, visit the Massillon Museum's website, find the Big Read page, and that will take them to where they can register.
And that website address is?
MassillonMuseum.org.
Easy enough.
Yep.
MassillonMuseum.org. And we'll be able to find like all of the everything you've been talking about, right?
All of the things. And also on Facebook. That's a great place to find the most up-to-date information about our classes and workshops and open studio time for ceramics and also for live drawing from still lives and models and all of the things.
What ages can attend some kind of a class or workshop? What ages do you serve?
Well, we try to serve all ages. We actually just launched a Tots and Pots
Really? How
where
fun.
little ones with a caregiver can start early playing with clay.
Oh, how neat.
And we have a family yoga program that we've had for a few years now. We're reviving that. That's going to be on Sundays starting here in the spring. And so there are a lot of different opportunities for families to engage with one another. And we have a sensory room at the museum, and as my daughters call it, the playroom. But so it very much is that, but it also been a very important tool for us to provide a comfortable, sensory-friendly space for people who need it. So, so I've seen little ones who can't walk have a ball in there as well. So really, everyone. And we have visitors and we have participants who are in their 80s and 90s who are actively engaged in our classes and our lecture programs. And it truly is a place where we welcome everyone.
The whole community can get something out of it. Go to
Yes.
MassillonMuseum.org and plan on spending some time while you're there.
Yes.
No more can you dash into the Massillon Museum for an hour and see what's there and leave. It's going to take a day at least. So
Yes, I like to think so. And you can stop for coffee or a bite to eat in the cafe as well.
Nice,
And their
nice.
hours pretty closely align with ours. So
awesome. Well, we will be seeing you Saturday, March 14th at the Massillon Museum. Alexandria Nicholas Kuhn, thank you so much for all you do in our community.
thanks for having me.